Do you think anything will come of this? It felt like, getting thrown out. There he is. There's Ryan Pike, our buddy. Getting thrown out that early into the game, not even 10 minutes in. I feel like that's like a half suspension in its own right, and that's the leading scorer here on your Wranglers.
Yeah, and I think, the supplemental discipline in the AHL as much as the NHL is based on, reputation and game situation. And, was it a dumb penalty take at that time of the game? Yeah. Mitch Love was very, very restrained in his commenting. He said, he didn't want to get any trouble, so he didn't really want to criticize the officials. And that basically tells you what he thought of the penalty. But the Wranglers have been a very good special teams team, and they become a much less potent offensive team when you take away a guy as dynamic at the AHL level as Matthew Phillips. But they managed to, if you look at some of the guys that did score, I mean, obviously Jacob Pelche returning after being in the National Hockey League for a while, he's a difference maker. He was, before he went up, top 10 in league scoring. But Adam Klapka might be the best Flames prospect that no one's really talking about. In his last home game at the Saddledome in the regular season, he got a hat trick, and he's been playing very well. And do you want to spend your game with 11 forwards? They were also missing Nick DeSimone for a decent chunk of the game due to what we think is some sort of an upper body injury. He finished the game, but he definitely wasn't feeling great. So that's playoff hockey. I mean, Noah Juleson didn't finish the game either. So, I mean, this feels like the kind of series that even though it might not be a full 5-game series, they're going to need some time to recover after this because of the way these two teams play each other.
I think we touched on it right off the top. I think it's the obvious biggest difference maker in this series. His name's Dustin Wolf. Probably the best goaltender outside of the NHL, even to start the season. We made a little bit of an argument on Devin Levi. Those two kind of in the same realm for us as we watch guys coming into the NHL next season, pretty much. But Dustin Wolf, like, how reliant is this team on what he does between the pipes? Because that game that we saw at the Abbotsford Center to close out the regular season, you watched them play with Wolf and net, then you watched them play without Wolf when he was up in the NHL playing with Calgary, and you're like, man, this is a very different looking team. How reliant are the Wranglers on Dustin Wolf's strong play?
Oh, when you have a Dustin Wolf back there, it can cover up a lot. Case in point, just look at I'd say the first 10 minutes of that game in game one. The Wranglers looked like they were a bit stuck in the mud. Their transition game was, in a word, bad. They had a lot of bad turnovers, a lot of odd man rushes. A lot of very good Abbotsford Canucks players got basically free shots on net. And especially in that 5-minute power play, I mean, the penalty kill was pretty good, but they had to rely on Dustin Wolf making a lot of big saves. I mean, he was the great stabilizer when they really didn't have their game going at all. And then once they got going, I mean, they never trailed in game one. And a large proportion of that credit should go to the goaltender because, if you have anybody else in there, I'm not even talking about a league average goalie. I'm not even talking about someone like Oscar Dansk as backup. I'm just talking about anyone else. The second best goalie in the AHL is probably, has a few pucks behind him at the end of the first period, simply based on volume and shot quality. But Dustin Wolf managed to pitch a goose egg in the first 20, and I think that was the main reason they were able to come away with a victory.
Okay, so outside of the crease, what's the engine? What's this team's engine for the Calgary Wranglers? Like, what do we have to look for in this series?
Well, I think quietly, the engine of the team has been Ben Jones. They got Ben Jones off of free agency. He was previously with the Vegas Golden Knights organization. Became a free agent. The Flames signed him, and he's a very good AHL center. He touches every aspect of the game. If you look at the Adam Klapka goal that made it 2-1, it comes off of a couple nice plays. Brett Sutter's also a guy who's really quietly an engine for the team. He's the team's captain, coincidentally the son of Flames head coach Daryl Sutter. But he's a pro's pro. He wanted to come to Calgary to play closer to home, and he's been one of the more consistent players. He brings energy. He's one of those guys that isn't afraid to, give somebody a cross check after a scrum or anything like that. I mean, he's got some snarl to him, but they have a lot of those sort of guys, they're entry level guys the Flames prospects between 20 and 23, they're all kind of smallish and skill based. And I think, between Ben Jones, between, Mitch McLean, who came in after being with the Milwaukee Admirals over the last couple seasons, they brought in, from the Ontario Reign organization, Brett Sutter. They brought in a lot of guys that sort of add a bit more beef and add a bit more snarl and give those guys, the smaller guys, a bit of a chance to play it. I don't think that, guys like Pelche or Jeremy Poirier or Emilio Peterson or Matthew Phillips have the seasons they had this season offensively without those bigger veteran guys sort of, playing traffic cop, for lack of a better term.
I think watching this Wranglers team, you can feel a confidence, right? You could feel it kick in, like you mentioned, after that first 10 minutes, after Wolf kind of got them involved in the game. I'm curious what your confidence is from watching this team all season long. I mean, they finished with nearly 20 more points than the Abbotsford Canucks. They have, the Wranglers with their 51-17-4 record on the year against the Abbotsford Canucks. They end up winning 8 times out of the 12 games that they faced them. I guess you could call it 9 out of 13 now at the playoff game. What's your confidence level that the Wranglers roll through the Abbotsford Canucks here? Because they're coming off a bye. This is their first round playoffs. Is this something where the Wranglers, you feel they could roll through Abbotsford here?
I think so. I think Abbotsford probably gets a game at some point. Maybe, I'm thinking the first game in Abbotsford might be a game that the Canucks are able to get, because I think, the Abbotsford's been much more comfortable, I think, at home than they've been on the road, especially with the way the Wranglers are playing. But, I think the best thing possible for the Wranglers was that 3-game series against the Canucks to close out the regular season, because A, I think they have a familiarity with each other, and B, I mean, the Flames took away 3 pretty important pieces from the Wranglers in Walker Duehr, Jacob Pelche, and Dustin Wolf for that 3-game series. Walker Duehr didn't even play in that series at all. He made his return to the lineup in game 1 after basically being in the NHL since January. So I think the Wranglers look at that 3-game series and go, oh damn, we should have taken all 3. And the Wranglers feel like they have something to prove. I think they felt they were better than a year ago. The Stockton Heat went to the conference final, lost the eventual Calder Cup champions, the Chicago Wolves, and I think the Wranglers feel like they let one get away. I think they felt like they were right there with Chicago and just found ways to lose. And I think they're motivated by that as much as they're motivated by that bad last weekend they felt they had against the Canucks. And I think they look at that first game. One of the most common things we've heard from Mitch Love after wins at the Saddle Dome is, I don't think we played very well. And he's a 2-time coach of the year for a reason, because I don't think he's very satisfied. But I think his level of attention to detail and his level of dissatisfaction with efforts or results that he feels are subpar, I think it permeates to that room, because we talked to any number of players after game 1 who thought, well, I think the consensus was they felt they got away with one on game 1. Like they were rusty, they were incomplete, they were playing a man down for 90% of the game, and they managed to eke one out. I also think that game 2, we're going to see a lot more composed, energetic, and structured Calgary Wranglers team. But we're also really going to see a more desperate Abbotsford Canucks team down 1-0. So I think a lot of people are already looking forward to game 2.
Yeah, I know we definitely are. And for the other way of looking at this, obviously a lot of people listening to this, Abbotsford fans, they want to see a win. So what would it take for the Abbotsford Canucks to win this series? What would it be? What would be a letdown for the Wranglers? What is the thing? Like I don't think it's going to be Wolf that lets this team down. I don't know if it's going to be some of the veteran guys. What is the thing that I want to say has let them down also, at some point in the season, but was there even a stretch this year where the Wranglers were let down by something, because they were the best team in the AHL in the regular season?
I'd say that the Achilles heel for the Wranglers, we saw it in the first period against Abbotsford. In their transition game at times is kind of clunky. I think they struggled at times dealing with the forecheck of the Canucks in terms of, by the time they were trying to get a puck out, they had, a guy in a white sweater right on them. And, it's the same kind of thing with the big club where, if you get a little bit disconnected in your 5-man units and you try to make a bit longer pass and get a little bit lazy with your transition game, that's when things start spiraling on them. And that's what happened. It's good when you have a Dustin Wolf to cover you up when you make mistakes like that, but you can only make so many of those. You can only put, for lack of a better term, to be crass, you can only deliver so many pizzas until eventually someone's going to cash in. And so the Wranglers were delivery men in a lot of times in the first period, and Dustin Wolf bailed them out. But can they rely on Dustin Wolf to bail them out that many times when they do that kind of sloppy defensive play?
From covering the Wranglers here for this series, Pike, who worries you most on the Abbotsford roster?
That's a good question. I like Klimovich. I think he's got a nice little bit of energy to him. I think that the thing I really like about the Canucks roster is that there's so much depth. I mean, you can flip a coin and you're going to get a good goaltending performance, and both of the goaltenders have a little bit of a stylistic difference. So if you're trying to pregame, if you're doing video for these two guys, they're different enough that I think that you have to change your tactics depending on what's going on with the goaltender. And that's a wrinkle that a lot of teams can't throw at you. I really like the depth on defense. I mean, when you have Jack Rathbone on your third pair, that means you have 4 guys ahead of him that you're pretty happy with. And even if you look at the group they have at forward, I mean, you have the ability to roll 12 guys. I mean, I think that you can make a case that the Wranglers have more high-end scoring depth than the Canucks do. But I think, lines 1 through 4 with the Canucks, there's not that much of a drop-off. And I think when the Canucks are playing the way they want to play, they can just wear you down and just come at you with pace and just frustrate you until you start making silly mistakes. And they did that a lot in the first period. If they can do that for 60 minutes, I think I probably like their chances if I'm them. But again, the tough thing to do against the Wranglers is impose yourself, because they have a team that has that high-end depth that can just, when you think you have your lines all rolling, you have some momentum, they have some guys that can just be difference makers, whether it's, a big guy like Klapka who can, move the way he does somehow at 6'8" and score those kind of goals, or they have guys who are willing to just absolutely crush you with a body check to disrupt. So I think if the Canucks can just play at 5-on-5 and roll, I think they like their chances. But I think the more the Canucks can have their game and their momentum disrupted by the Wranglers, the more it plays in the Wranglers' hands.
Yeah, most definitely. That's basically what it felt like all season long. All the games, it felt like that. And we've seen them now 13 times against each other. Pike, one more question here. I got to get this from you. Do you know what the mascot's name is for this? What's up going out there in the rank? Does he have a name?
The Wranglers' mascot is Blasty. Blasty the Bronco. That is not Blasty. That is their weird anthropomorphic CGI horse.
I go to sleep and hope that this doesn't come in my dreams at some point, because it is the scariest thing on the AHL broadcast. I don't know. So this is, I was going to say, this doesn't look like the mascot. I was getting people sending me photos of the mascot. I said, well, who is this thing? This thing scares the living hell out of me.
I don't think this thing has a name except Nightmare Fuel. I agree with you. It's an acquired taste, to be sure.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't want any part of this taste. But
okay.
All right. Like, what? Okay, go ahead, Quads.
Hey, I got something. Do the Flames, like the Calgary Flames, have a mascot, Pike, or is it Blasty at both levels?
The Calgary Flames has the NHL's first mascot, Harvey the Hound.
Mm. Oh, that's right. Okay.
Remember, Craig McTavish tore his tongue out that time.
Yes, okay. Yes. Okay, I'm now remembering the mascot. I can picture him now. Okay, sorry. Go on.
Oh, no, that's it. We'll wrap it up on that tremendous piece of podcasting. Good job, Quads, for getting Harvey the Hound. Anyways, Pike, appreciate you taking the time. For anybody who wants to follow you, Ryan N. Pike on Twitter, I believe, right? That's what we're looking at. If you want to get a Wranglers perspective. And you'll be on the ground.
We have a whole cast of characters covering the Wranglers as far as they go in the playoffs. So, if you follow me on socials, I'll make sure that you get the good stuff in your feed from our strong people on the ground here.
Awesome. And you guys are in the arena for these, right? Like, because what I was saying is I think Nation Network is going to have a guy out there in Calgary. Quads and I will be out here in Abbotsford. Quads will probably make it to one of them. We'll see. But we'll have a guy on the ground, which is awesome for the company. It's great to see that. And Pike, appreciate you joining us here today, man, to give us a little bit of a Calgary perspective.
Thanks for having me, guys.
You betcha. There he is, Ryan Pike, Flames Nation.